She doesn't want more words. She wants presence, stillness. A man who doesn't need to prove himself to be felt. Most men don't get this. They think the way to her heart is through long messages, constant check-ins, over-explaining their feelings. But the more you talk, the less she feels. The more you chase, the less she respects you. And maybe you've felt this too. You do everything right and still she drifts. Cold replies, less eye contact, and slowly you become invisible to the woman you were once magnetic to. It's frustrating, but it's not your fault. The world taught you to be nice, not powerful, to be available, not mysterious. But here's the truth no one told you. Desire doesn't live in comfort. It lives in tension, in silence, in the unknown. And when a man knows how to hold that space, everything changes. She leans in. She softens. She starts to crave. In this video, I'll show you exactly how to do that. How just 2 words used with precision can flip the dynamic entirely. Not because the words themselves are magic, but because of what they reveal about you, about your energy, your self-respect, your depth. Let's get into it. Number 1. Speak less, radiate more. Here's a truth that most men don't hear enough. Your energy says more than your words ever will. You can read every book on seduction, memorize every line, and still not move her at all. Because what makes a woman lean in isn't what you say, it's how you hold yourself when you say nothing. Let me paint you a picture. Scott, 47, recently divorced, has been dipping his toes back into dating. He's financially stable, emotionally intelligent, and genuinely kind. But when he's out on dates, he talks too much. Not out of arrogance, but out of nervous energy. He fills every silence, explains himself in detail, over compliments, trying to prove how good of a man he island. Across the table is Megan, 42, attractive, successful, emotionally aware. And while Scott is ticking all the nice guy boxes, something's missing. He's too available, too eager, too verbal. She doesn't feel the masculine edge. Why? Because true masculine presence isn't noisy, it's steady. It doesn't chase validation, it creates gravity. It's the man who can sit in silence with calm eyes and a soft smirk, making her wonder what he's thinking, not explaining everything he's feeling. It's the man who knows that in the right moment, silence is the message. In Stoicism, Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This wasn't just a lesson in conversation, it's a lesson in magnetism. The man who listens, observes, and speaks with precision carries authority. He doesn't need volume to make an impact. He doesn't need approval to feel grounded. He owns the room with stillness. There's an undeniable allure in restraint. When you speak only when necessary, your words carry weight. When you don't rush to fill every pause, you allow her imagination to engage, and trust me, her imagination will do far more than your words ever could. So, how do you embody this? Start with your posture. Shoulders back, chest relaxed, eyes steady. When you walk into a room, don't shrink, expand. Breathe deeply, move slowly like you have nowhere to rush, to nothing to prove. Then listen, really listen. Most men don't. They wait for their turn to talk. But when you listen without needing to speak, without needing to solve, you create space. And women feel that space, they lean into it. Finally, when you speak, speak with clarity. Short sentences, fewer details, no long justifications, no trying to win her with your resume. The most powerful sentence you can say in a conversation is often the one you don't say. Scott learned this the hard way, but he learned. After working on this, he went on another date, this time with Lisa, 45. Same kind of woman, same energy. But this time he didn't talk her into anything, he just was. And halfway through the night she leaned in, touched his arm and whispered, "You're different, you're calm." That's what you want to create. Not noise, not performance, but presence. And presence begins where the need to impress ends. If this resonates with you, type it in the comments to make it yours. I radiate presence. And if you're serious about becoming the kind of man who doesn't have to chase because he naturally attracts, stick around. What we're about to cover next will shift how women feel you, without you saying a word. Let's keep going. Number 2. Stop trying, start being. Let's get real for a moment. You can't try your way into attraction. The harder you try to make her like you, the less she will. Women don't respond to effort, they respond to essence, to presence, to energy. Trying is rooted in fear. It's what you do when you're not sure if you're enough. So you overcompensate. You send another text. You plan the perfect compliment. You rehearse what you'll say. But behind all of that is a quiet panic. I hope she likes me. That panic, that neediness is invisible ink. She can't always explain it, but she feels it. And once she does, the mystery is gone. The frame is lost. And with it, her attraction. Instead of trying to impress her, just be the man who doesn't need to. Be the man who already knows what he brings to the table, who's not sitting there asking for a seat, but quietly choosing who gets to sit across from him. And no, this isn't arrogance. This is groundedness. It's the difference between a man who performs and a man who island. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." The Stoics understood something that most modern men forget. Being isn't passive, it's powerful. It means living so fully in alignment with your values, your standards, your sense of self, that you never have to explain yourself. The man who tries is externally motivated. He shapes himself based on the reaction of others. The man who is he's internally directed. His choices come from inner clarity, not outer approval. And here's where it gets interesting. When you stop trying, women start leaning in. When you stop chasing, you become the chase. Why? Because mystery is magnetic, and mystery only exists when you're not seeking to be understood at every turn. This isn't about playing games. It's about shifting the source of your confidence from how she responds to who you are, regardless of her response. Think of a man standing in a storm. Trying is like desperately throwing up an umbrella hoping to control the weather. Being is standing tall, letting the wind blow unmoved. That's the kind of masculine presence that doesn't just attract a woman, it calms her. And yes, there will be moments when silence feels awkward, when you're tempted to fill the space, when you think, maybe I should text her again, or maybe if I just explain myself better. That's the old frame. That's trying. Instead, sit in that tension, own it, let it mold you. Ask yourself in those moments, what would a man who doesn't need to try do right now? Then act from that place. You'll notice a shift, not only in how she reacts, but in how you feel about yourself. More grounded, more composed, less reactive, and ironically more powerful. This is the paradox. When you let go of trying to impress, you become impressive. When you stop needing her to respond, she wants to. And when you stop trying to win her over, you win her respect. And I want you to own that shift right now. If this landed with you, drop it in the comments below with this phrase, "I am already enough." Say it like you mean it, because once you believe it, everything changes. And what's coming next will show you how to take that quiet confidence and make it felt without saying a single word. Let's keep going. Number 3, let her lean in. Let's talk about restraint, not as weakness, but as power. One of the most magnetic things a man can do is not rush in, to hold his center, to stay grounded, and to wait just long enough for her to make the next move. See, when a woman feels something for you, her instinct might be to test your gravity. Not your charm, not your jokes, your gravity. Your ability to stay calm, to remain still, to not chase. And in that stillness, you give her the space to lean in. Now, this doesn't mean playing hard to get. It means being worth coming to. And that's a very different energy. Take, for example, Michael, a 47-year-old divorced father of 2 living in Austin, Texas. He recently started dating again after a long hiatus. On his 3rd date with a woman named Rachel, 42, she leaned back in her chair and said, "You're hard to read." Michael didn't panic. He didn't rush to explain himself. He simply smiled and sipped his drink. He let the silence breathe. And you know what Rachel did? She leaned forward. She started asking him the questions. She wanted to know more. Why? Because Michael didn't fill the space with nervous chatter. He let her feel the pause, and that's when the energy shifted. Here's the truth: the man who waits isn't weak, he's selective. He doesn't need to rush in because he already knows his worth. That's a different signal. It communicates quiet confidence, emotional mastery, and a kind of inner stability that most men don't cultivate. As Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And that's the whole point here. You create attraction not by pursuit but by posture, by giving her the room to choose. And if she does lean in, it means it's real. It means it's not just attention-seeking or performance. It's her taking a step into your world voluntarily. This doesn't mean you go cold. It doesn't mean you play passive. You're still present, still grounded, but you resist the urge to fill the void. You let the moment stretch. You hold the tension. And this is the hard part for most men, because we've been conditioned to believe that if we're not doing something, we're losing ground. But the truth is, attraction is often built in the space between moves. It's the space where her curiosity blooms, where she starts to ask herself, "Why am I thinking about him so much?" That's the space where you become unforgettable. So let me ask you, are you allowing her the room to step forward, or are you stepping in every time she starts to move? Because when you always fill the silence, always initiate, always chase, you rob her of the experience of pursuit. And trust me, women want to pursue. Not in the way men do, but emotionally, energetically, they want to earn it too. Give her that opportunity. Let her lean in. And if this message hits home for you, if you know you've been stepping in too soon, drop this in the comments. I will hold my ground. Say it and mean it. Because coming up next, we're going to unlock the subtle shift that makes your presence impossible to ignore without ever raising your voice. Let's keep going. Number 4, 2 words that flip the script. Now this one's deceptively simple, but it's powerful. 2 words. That's all it takes to shift the energy in a room, change the way a woman sees you, and reframe the entire dynamic between you. Ready for them? That's interesting. That's it. That's the move. Here's why it works. Most men, when a woman says something provocative, maybe she's testing you, challenging your beliefs, or even just trying to stir emotion, most guys either argue, agree, or try to impress. They get pulled into the frame she set, into her world. But when you respond with, "That's interesting," you're doing something radically different. You're observing, not reacting. You're staying present, but not chasing validation. You're acknowledging, but not submitting. These 2 words say, "I see you, but I remain rooted," and that is deeply attractive. Because what you're really communicating is detachment without distance, curiosity without need, control without dominance. It's a high-level emotional posture, and women feel it instantly. Let's be clear, this isn't some magic trick. It's not a pickup line. It's a reflection of mindset, a Stoic mindset. Remember what Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. When you say, "That's interesting," you're stepping into that power. You're no longer a slave to emotional triggers. You become the observer of the moment, not the victim of it. It flips the script because most people, men and women, are used to emotional reactions. They're used to either resistance or agreement. But "That's interesting" is neutral. It invites her to explain. It signals calm. And it subtly says, "I don't need to win this moment. I just need to understand it." And this creates something very specific: intrigue. You're no longer just another guy trying to score points. You're the man who doesn't rush, doesn't prove, doesn't flinch. That kind of energy is rare. Now here's the key: tone matters. When you say these 2 words, you don't want to sound sarcastic or dismissive. You want it to land like a quiet note of depth, like you're genuinely listening, not judging, not rushing to label, just letting her reveal more. Because when a woman feels that she can express herself around you without immediate correction or interruption, she starts to soften. And the more she softens, the more her real self starts to surface. And that's when a real connection can form. It's all because of those two words. That's interesting. Now, if you've been chasing connection the hard way, over-explaining, trying to impress, feeling the pressure to always say something smart, this right here might be the reset you need. And if you're the kind of man who wants to go deeper, not just in relationships, but in mastering yourself, I invite you to join the channel as a member. We're building something here for men who are ready to step off autopilot and start leading their lives from within. You'll get deeper dives, live sessions behind the scenes, breakdowns, the kind of tools and mindsets that separate grounded men from reactive boys. You can click the join button right below this video. It's simple, and it's powerful, just like those two words. Now say it with me in the comments. I stay composed. That's your reminder right there. Up next, we're going to unlock the subtle signal you're always sending, whether you mean to or not, and how to make sure that signal pulls her in, not pushes her away. Let's keep going. Number 5. Challenge, don't chase. Let me tell you something. Most men get wrong. They think the path to a woman's heart is paved with attention, compliments, and constant pursuit. It's not. If you want her desire, not just her approval, you need to become a challenge, not a chaser. Now, I'm not talking about playing hard to get just for the sake of it. That's a game. What I'm talking about is a shift in energy, a shift in who sets the tone. When you chase, you're reacting to her, but when you challenge, you're leading. You're inviting her into your frame, and women feel that difference immediately. Let's bring this to life with an example. Meet David, 44, a divorced father of 2 in Phoenix. After years in a marriage that dulled his edge, he started dating again. And like most guys, his instinct was to overcorrect. He tried too hard, always texting first, always complimenting, always making himself available. He thought that would show her he was serious. It didn't. The woman he was seeing, Rebecca, 39, started to pull away. Not because he was a bad guy, but because he stopped being interesting. He wasn't a challenge. He was a safety net. So David tried something different. The next time Rebecca sent a flirty but vague message, instead of replying right away with validation, he paused. Then he wrote, "You're trouble, aren't you? Playful, assertive, challenging." It flipped the energy. She responded instantly. Why? Because David shifted from pursuing approval to sparking tension. He wasn't rude, he wasn't cold, but he stopped being predictable. And in doing so, he relit that spark. Here's what's really happening. Women don't crave men who give them everything up front. They crave the feeling of earning a man's attention. When she has to lean in to figure you out, she becomes emotionally invested. And emotional investment is the birthplace of desire. Now, I want to be clear, this isn't about being arrogant or withholding love. Stoicism teaches us not to manipulate, but to master ourselves. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." If you're chasing, you're not mastering, you're reacting. But when you lead with presence, mystery, and strength, you naturally become a challenge worth leaning into. So how do you challenge her exactly? You hold your ground. You don't fold under pressure. If she tests you with sarcasm or tries to get a rise out of you, you stay composed. Maybe you raise an eyebrow. Maybe you smirk, but you don't bite. You also tease her lightly, playfully. Not to wound her confidence, but to stir her interest. Show her that you're not just another guy who's desperate for validation. You're a man who knows his worth, and that alone changes the dynamic completely. When a woman feels she has to win you over, she stops seeing you as an option and starts seeing you as a prize. And that's the energy that keeps her coming back. Now look, this isn't always easy, especially if you've been conditioned to equate love with effort. But part of being a grounded man is learning to sit in that tension. Not because you want to play games, but because you understand the value of your energy. Not everyone gets immediate access to you. Not even her. So if you're serious about reclaiming your masculine frame, not just for women but for your own sense of peace and power, this is the shift you need. Repeat after me, I don't chase, I challenge. That's it. That's your new mantra. And in the next section we're going deeper into the energy you give off without even speaking and how it silently pulls women into your orbit. Let's keep going. Number 6. Control nothing, command everything. Here's a truth that might feel uncomfortable at first. The moment you try to control her, you've already lost her. Control is fear wearing a mask. It's the energy of a man who doubts his influence, so he tries to impose it. And women can feel that. They sense it not as strength but as insecurity dressed up as dominance. See, commanding a room isn't about forcing anyone to follow. It's about becoming the kind of man people naturally want to follow. That's the difference between control and command. Control says don't talk to him. Command says nothing, and yet she doesn't want to. Control says tell me where you are. Command trusts and makes her want to keep you in the loop. Control pushes, command pulls. And here's the most powerful part. You don't need to control a woman who's genuinely drawn to your presence. That magnetism comes from stillness, clarity, and self-respect. It doesn't demand. It invites. And it doesn't bend over backward to prove anything. This is where Stoicism comes in strong. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When a woman feels that you're emotionally untouchable, that you don't try to manage her behavior, but instead manage your reaction to it, everything shifts. You become the calm in her storm. And that's rare. That's what women crave but don't always know how to name. This is the essence of commanding energy. It's not about raised voices or firm ultimatums. It's the opposite. It's the quiet power of a man who knows he doesn't need to grasp at anything to keep it. He knows if she aligns, she stays. If she doesn't, she goes. And either way, he remains centered. Now, I'm not saying you tolerate disrespect or disloyalty. Quite the opposite. I'm saying you draw your boundaries not with control, but with clarity. You don't say, you can't go to that party. You say, I don't stay where I feel disrespected. You don't demand. You state, calmly, without threat. And the power in that, it's immense. It puts the ball in her court while keeping your dignity intact. This isn't a tactic, it's a mindset. And when you truly embody it, people feel it, women feel it. You move like a man who's already chosen himself, and she gets to choose whether or not to align with that energy. This is where attraction becomes deeper than looks or lines. It's primal. It's in the way you sit, speak, pause. In the way you don't flinch when something doesn't go your way. In the way you hold eye contact, not to intimidate, but because your center isn't shifting just because she does. So here's the question. Are you leading your life with control or with command? Are you gripping tighter every time she pulls away? Or are you releasing the need to chase and instead deepening your presence? Because the men who win in the long run, the ones who draw in real feminine energy, they're the ones who live by this unshakable principle. I control nothing. I command everything. And it starts with mastering yourself. Not her mood, not her reactions, not her attention, just you. Master your thoughts, your responses, your emotions, and you'll find that the world, including women, responds in kind, not because you forced it, but because your presence led it. In the next section, we're going to talk about how your eyes, yes, your eyes can say everything she needs to feel, and you won't have to utter a single word. Let's keep going. Number 7. Stay calm, build tension. There's something magnetic about a man who can stay completely calm while the air between you crackles with tension. In today's world, most men are reactive. A woman gives him attention, he pounces. She withdraws, he panics, she flirts, he rushes in with compliments. And in doing so, he short-circuits the very thing that builds true desire, tension. Tension is the unspoken electricity between two people. It's the space between what's said and what's felt. It's what turns a casual glance into a lingering memory, and the only way to build it is to stay calm. Let's paint a picture. Jason, 42, met Amanda, 39, at a work networking event in Chicago. She was charming, witty, and beautiful, and she knew it. Most men that night hovered around her like moths to a flame. Jason, he greeted her warmly, then turned to speak with someone else. Calm, cool, not rude, just unmoved. Later they crossed paths again. This time Amanda leaned in more. She asked about him. She laughed longer. And Jason, he smiled, held eye contact, and said little. But the way he listened with full presence spoke volumes. He didn't push, he didn't perform. And that calm, that silence, it built tension so thick you could feel it in the air. You see, calmness is power in stillness, and power is intoxicating. Now here's where most men get it wrong. They think they need to say something clever or charming every 5 seconds to keep a woman interested. But in doing that, they give away the mystery. They give away the very tension that fuels attraction. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." Calmness doesn't mean you're dull. It means you're not shaken, not overly eager, not seeking to entertain or prove. You simply are, fully, quietly, powerfully. So how do you actually build that tension? It's in the pauses. It's in the slight smirk instead of a laugh. It's in holding eye contact half a second longer than expected. It's in speaking slowly, deliberately. It's in standing close enough to feel the spark but not acting on it yet. When a woman is in your presence and she can feel your restraint, that you could make a move but don't, that's when her mind starts racing. Why hasn't he tried? Does he feel it too? What is he thinking right now? That mental loop, that's desire growing in silence. Let's go back to Jason. By the end of the night, Amanda made it a point to ask if he was going to the next event. That's not coincidence. That's tension doing its work. Men who master tension don't chase moments, they create them. And that comes from being grounded, from knowing that what you bring is already enough, from not needing to fill the space with noise or nervous energy. So next time you're with her, whether it's a new date or someone you've known a while, don't be in a rush to impress. Be in control. Breathe. Slow down. Let the silence work in your favor. Because when you stay calm while your presence creates heat, she leans in. That's the secret. Let your silence speak desire. Let your calm hold gravity. And let the tension pull her closer. Ready for what's next? In the next part, we'll uncover how 2 small words said at just the right time can flip the entire dynamic and unlock her emotional walls without pressure or performance. Let's move forward. Number 8. Let her feel your distance. One of the most powerful moves you can make is to take a step back, not out of bitterness, not out of anger, but from calm certainty, and let her feel it. Most men are terrified of distance. The moment a woman pulls away, they panic. They flood her phone. They try to fix it, to talk it out, to bring back the warmth they once had. But here's the truth. Desire doesn't grow in closeness. It grows in space. When you create distance, not with drama, but with quiet confidence, you give her the opportunity to miss your presence. You give her the space to reflect, to wonder, to feel that something is missing. And if there's a real connection, that absence will speak louder than anything you could say. The Stoics understood this principle long before modern psychology did. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things." In relationships, this means being strong enough to not react immediately, to not chase her validation or attention, to be willing to let her think you don't care even when you do, because only then do you stop playing her game and start playing your own. Here's what most men don't realize. When you back away calmly, you change the dynamic entirely. You remove the pressure. You remove the neediness. And in doing so, you let her feel your value through your absence, not just your presence. But let's be clear, this isn't about manipulation. It's not about punishing her. It's about showing that your time, energy, and emotional availability are not given out freely to someone who doesn't reciprocate. When you're always available, always responding, always there, you become background noise. Predictable, easy, and nothing about that stirs desire. But when you suddenly stop texting back right away, when you no longer initiate every interaction, when you begin investing that energy into yourself, instead, now you become the one she starts to think about. That's when the shift happens. She starts to notice the silence. She checks her phone a little more. She replays the last interaction in her mind, wondering what changed. And if there was any real connection, she'll feel that void. Because a man who can walk away calmly is a man who holds power, not control over her, but control over himself. That's the key. Stoicism teaches that the only thing truly in your power is your response. You can't control how she acts, what she says, or how she feels. But you can control whether you stay centered, whether you allow her chaos to disturb your peace. And when you stop trying to pull her closer, and instead let her come to you, that's when she sees what she truly had. So ask yourself this: are you brave enough to let her feel the absence of your warmth? Can you stay grounded in that silence? Can you walk away, not to punish, but to preserve your own gravity? Because if you can, you don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to plead. You don't even need to explain. Your distance says it all. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and affirm who you are. Let the world know you don't chase validation, you embody it. Type this and own it: I hold power. And don't go anywhere just yet, because what comes next will completely rewire the way you think about attraction. We're about to dig even deeper into a principle most men overlook. And it's the exact shift that separates the unforgettable from the forgettable. Keep watching, you're just getting started. Number 9. Make her feel chosen, not chased. There's a massive difference between making a woman feel special and making her feel superior. One creates intimacy, the other creates imbalance. And most men, without realizing it, spend their energy chasing instead of choosing. You see, when a woman feels chosen, it means you, an emotionally grounded, high-value man, have decided that she aligns with your values, your energy, your rhythm. That's attraction built on mutual respect. But when she feels chased, it signals neediness. It tells her that your validation depends on hers. Let's bring this into real life for a second. David, 47, had just come out of a long-term marriage. He met Melissa, 42, through friends. She was magnetic, elegant, warm, playful. The kind of woman who could make a man forget himself if he wasn't careful. And that's exactly what David started doing. Texting her too often, rearranging his schedule, apologizing for things that didn't need apologies. Melissa never asked him to do these things, but she pulled back little by little. The truth, she liked him, but she stopped respecting him. Why? Because he acted like a man trying to earn a place in her life, rather than a man offering her a place in his. Now here's the shift. David pulled back, not out of spite, but clarity. He stopped over-explaining, stopped over-pursuing. He stayed friendly but firm. He centered himself again. Within 2 weeks, Melissa initiated contact, curious and open. That's the power of choosing, not chasing. So what does that look like in your life? You listen attentively, but don't always jump in with validation. You give her space, but not because you're playing games. You simply have a rich, full life that doesn't pause at her every move. You compliment her, but only when it's authentic, not as a strategy to gain favor. And you make her feel desired, but within boundaries that show you respect yourself first. This mindset is built on something the Stoics preached deeply. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. In other words, your worth isn't something she grants you. It's something you bring to the table. When you choose her, it's from strength, not from lack. That's when she leans in, not because she feels pursued, but because she feels seen and valued by a man who values himself. Now let's be clear. This doesn't mean being cold. It means being discerning. You lead with standards, not desperation. You create space where a woman can step toward you, not run away from your intensity. So ask yourself, in your recent connections, have you been choosing or chasing? If you're ready to shift into the mindset of a man who never begs but always invites, then drop this in the comments right now. I choose wisely. That's your stamp of power. That's your commitment to presence over pursuit. And listen, if this hits home, don't even think about clicking away, because what we're about to cover next will flip the dynamic even further. If you've ever felt the balance of power slip away from you, what comes next will give you the edge to regain it. Stay with me. Number 10. Say less, mean more. There's a moment in every man's life where he realizes words are cheap, and often the more you say, the less power you hold. When it comes to women, this truth becomes undeniable. The most magnetic men don't impress with paragraphs. They shift the room with a sentence or even just a glance. They've mastered the art of saying less and meaning more. Why does this matter? Because feminine energy is deeply intuitive. She doesn't respond to what you say. She responds to how you say it, why you say it, and what your energy silently declares in between every word. If you're explaining too much, over-clarifying, trying to prove your worth or intentions with your words, she'll feel it, and you lose presence in her eyes. This is the power of restraint. The silence between your words holds more weight than the noise most men make trying to win approval. When a woman is around a man who doesn't fill every second with chatter, she begins to lean in psychologically, emotionally, even physically. Because mystery, when done right, is magnetic. Now let's take this to the real world. Picture David, 52, divorced 3 years back, on the dating scene. He meets Anna, 47, at a gallery opening. She's sharp, elegant, clearly used to being the one holding the conversation. David doesn't rush to impress. He listens deeply. When he speaks, his words are clear, few, and grounded. He doesn't chase the silence, he owns it. By the end of the evening, Anna finds herself doing most of the talking. She's asking the questions. She's intrigued not because David performed, but because he left space. Space for curiosity, space for her feminine energy to dance. She walks away thinking about him all night. Why? Because David didn't give her everything. He gave her just enough to want more. Now let's take a Stoic angle. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That's it. Be one. Not talk about it, not debate it, not convince anyone of it. Be it. That is the root of masculine power. When you embody your values, your boundaries, and your intentions, your words become sacred because they're rare. And when rare things are revealed, they're remembered. Saying less isn't about being cold or disconnected. It's about communicating from presence. It's about slowing down your speech so every word is rooted in awareness. And when a woman sees that you're not trying to win her attention, you become the attention. But what does this look like in practice? It looks like pausing before you answer her, letting your breath settle before speaking, holding eye contact instead of filling silence with nervous words, responding with a confident maybe instead of a desperate yes, saying "I don't explain myself" when she tries to push for control, or better yet, just smiling, saying nothing and letting the energy speak. Because the man who can sit in silence without shrinking, who can let a moment breathe without breaking it with babble, he communicates something deeper than charm. He communicates inner mastery, and that's what she craves. In a world full of noise, your silence becomes your signal. In a world full of oversharers, your mystery becomes your edge. In a world of men trying to be heard, your presence speaks louder than their words. This is not about manipulation, it's about maturity. And the mature man knows that words are not for validation, they are for clarity. They are used like tools, not toys. So, if you want to win a woman, not just impress her for a night, but impact her for a lifetime, remember this: restraint is respect, especially toward yourself. Speak less, but when you do, let every word carry the full weight of your intention. Let her feel that behind your quiet is a fire she hasn't touched yet. Let her sense that you're not afraid to walk away because your value doesn't need her confirmation. Let her see that you are not performing but embodying, because that's what flips the script. That's what separates men who get attention from men who get devotion. And that's the end of this video's final key. Now, before you go, if you're serious about mastering these inner shifts, not just understanding them, but living them, becoming them, then consider becoming a member of this channel. You'll get access to deeper private content insights and a growing community of men walking the same path. Also, hit that subscribe button if you found value here. There's more coming your way, and I promise it only gets better. See you in the next one.